Hello, I'm Ian Cuson, and I am the composer of Phantasma.
Hi, I'm Colleen Murphy, and I'm the librettist of Phantasma.
I'm Julie McIsaac, and I'm the dramaturg and stage director of Phantasma.
When Colleen Murphy and I sat down to talk about what kind of opera we wanted to write, we really began sharing stories of things that we liked or things that frightened us, talked about life, really. And a couple of the points that were particularly exciting for us was thinking about children and thinking about children being lost, really the fears of children.
A lot of my theater work is fairly dark, but also funny. And I've always been fascinated by the two masks of drama, right? The comedy and the tragedy. And you never see those masks separately. They're always together.
When I think of the most important experiences I've had in the theater, one always stands out for me. I was a young boy with my school on a trip to see a play, and it was a play by a Canadian playwright. It was written for children, and it was a very simple story about a boy and his friend, a goose. And this story was one that covered all kinds of difficult areas of reflection. There was conversations about abuse and children and parents and friendship. But it was done in such a way that spoke directly to children and did not water anything down. It treated the audience, whomever they would be, in my case, a 12-year-old boy, with dignity and with respect, and spoke artistically and creatively to me. I remember leaving that experience feeling like anything in the theater is possible. I remember leaving that experience thinking, this is a very, very special, sacred place for stories to be told. And I remember leaving the theater thinking, I have to be a part of this for the rest of my life.
When my son was little, I took him to Mump and Smoot, the clowns from hell, because I just believed that children should experience stories that are exciting, are dangerous, and are theatrical, and never patronize children, never speak down to them. And I think children get a great deal from that. And I believe it makes them want to come back to the theater. They want to come back to see another opera. There's something about offering that depth of material to young people that hooks them, that connects them to something in which they want to return to.
While we were working on the project, one of the ideas that I brought was a story that my father had shared with me when I was a kid. He told me that when he was at school, there was a fear that all of the kids had, and the fear was about going to the basement of the school where the bathrooms were. And it became something of a legend at the school of maybe it was haunted, maybe it was dangerous. And this idea as a kid stuck with me, and I sort of populated what the dangers or the fears were of that place. And I brought this idea to Colleen, and we thought, what if this could be a small nugget of an idea that could work in this story?
Well, much as a novelist will work with an editor who helps them to shape their ideas and sort of contributes to what the overall story and book is going to be, a dramaturg can work with creators to help them distill and to sort of reflect ideas back, ask questions, provide some analysis, and to be there to facilitate the process alongside them and to really support them so that their vision really comes to the fore and shines through really strongly. And part of the dramaturg's role too, or something that I feel really strongly about, is just contemplating the audiences who are going to be coming to meet this production, and to be thinking about how much information do we want to give to them and share with them ahead of time, and what are we just going to let them explore and feel and discover when they're in the theater with us.
We began talking about this project in 2018, And the process was a relatively quick one, even though it did take a little over a year to put together, to get to a stage where we had music and text, and we were in a room with singers working through this. And of course, the world shut down because of the pandemic.
Well, we were fortunate in that we did have an in-person music workshop where we were able to hear some of the music in early March 2020, so just before the pandemic shut things down. But then we went into this long, drawn-out time during which we weren't able to meet in person, and we weren't able to have those singers in the room with us and to hear this music. And so one of the challenges we encountered is that the only way we could hear it is for Ian to, pass the score to the pianist, who would then create a track that they would send to singer A, who would record their part and then send it to singer B, who would layer on their part and then send it to singer C. So it was really time consuming and really effortful, and it sort of wasn't a very juicy creative process. So during the long pandemic period as well, when we weren't able to work hands-on on the piece, something we were able to do is have these virtual focus groups with young people and educators, and to share the story and the characters with them, and to really welcome their feedback, and for them to tell us what they were thinking, what they were feeling about the story. And in particular, we were really trying to find out what's that sweet spot in terms of the age group, or who are we speaking to when we share this work with them. So we're so grateful for those young people and those educators who fed into that process, and we just want them to know that they're a part of this piece now forever.
Working with Ian Cusson and Julie McIsaac has been an incredible highlight of my opera life. We all wanted the same thing. We all wanted to create something completely original. We all wanted it to be good, to be exciting, but we also wanted to put a little bit of our blood on the page and a little bit of our blood on the stage, a deep kind of commitment to creating new opera.
Of course, the big question for composers is, when is the piece done? When do you stop kind of changing a note here and there, or a rhythm here and there? And in some ways that work continued on for a whole process through the workshop times that we've had. And that work is one that I guess ends when the piece is born, and it's born when it sits in front of an audience. Knowing when to stop and knowing when to not change is almost an impossible thing to figure out. But there is a point where making tweaks and changes can go one step too far, where you lose something of the magic of a piece. So we've tried to, in the process of making this piece, to find that sweet moment where it's right and it's ready to live in front of an audience. I'm really proud of the team that has been behind this project. And when I say team, I mean, of course, the creative team, Colleen, myself, Julie McIsaac, the dramaturg and director, but really the extended team, because an opera is not just made by one or two people. It's made by the singers, it's made by the creatives, it's made by the people who will come in and bring educational content to the work, it's made by the designers, and really a large group of people. And I think we were able to come together in a way to work in tandem with one another, to leave space for one another to do each other's work and to be the experts in the various fields that we occupy, but to do it in a unified way.
You'll love Phantasma if you remember that spooky, magical feeling of having that strange carnival pop up in the parking lot of the local mall and then disappearing the next day.
I hope people who come and see this opera will come away feeling deeply. Anytime I go into the theater, I want to have an emotional experience. I want to have a connected experience. I want to come away feeling differently about myself and the world that I live in. And I hope that we will create a little moment of magic for people to have that kind of emotional connection and emotional reflection on their lives and the world that we all live in.